Welcome to ABC Interactive English. Hello, everyone. I'm Mike.
And I'm Sam.
And we are working in our job, Sam. This is our job. We have a wonderful job. We get to hang out with each other, read these great articles, and talk to you folks. But this is not the first job we ever had. No, we've had other jobs before, but that first job that you've ever had could be a part-time job, meaning you only do it some of the time because the other time, many people will be going to school, which is why a part-time job is great for young people and students. I imagine you had a part-time job when you were still studying?
Yes, I did. So I would say my first unofficial part-time job, as most young kids in America, was babysitting.
Okay.
Yeah. So that one, but that one I won't really count because I didn't have to pay tax. Well, I don't know, maybe I was supposed to pay taxes.
Okay,
I didn't pay taxes.
You didn't work for a big company.
No, it wasn't for a company or anything like that.
Didn't wear a uniform.
No, but my first real part-time job was at Burger King, actually.
Ooh,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
My first part-time job was at KFC.
Oh, okay.
Making chicken, you were making burgers and fries. Did you actually make the food or did you work the cash and serve the customers?
Yes, I did both. I did front of house and back of house.
Wow, exciting.
But making the food is another story because you know the food's already just there in the warming drawers and you just kind of assemble the food is what I will say.
Now that was different for me. I was only in the kitchen. They didn't let me talk to the customers and I was putting chicken in really hot oil all day long. Ooh. It was kind of dirty and messy, but hey, I got free chicken, so that was something nice. But that's often what people will do. A fast food restaurant, working in a store, maybe working for a family member if they have a little business you can do. And this is something you will do some of the time when you're not at school or studying. A part-time job is a great way to get a little money in your pocket as a young person. Let's find out about the part-time jobs we'll be learning about and hearing about in our dialogue starting now. Sabrina and Carter are talking about their part-time jobs.
Can I ask what your pay is at your part-time job? I'll understand if you want to keep that private.
I don't mind telling you. I make 220 NT dollars per hour. What's your pay like?
I get paid 250 NT dollars an hour.
All right, so we are going to be looking at some dialogues today, and our dialogue that we are starting with is titled Working a Part-Time Job, Part A, Hours and Pay, which is a very important thing. If you are working a part-time job, you would like to know when should you work, how many hours, and how much money are you going to make per hour. So, yeah, I'd say it's a pretty important place to start.
And these will be things you learn or discuss with your boss or manager even before you begin the job. I think most part-time jobs might be 10, 20 hours in a week, often on the weekend or in the evening after school. So that would be the hours. How much time you spend. Usually a full-time job, like someone who only works, that would be around 40 hours a week. So part-time will be less than that. And the pay, that's the money that you will make. They often do it for part-time jobs, maybe by hour or something like that. I know in Taiwan, sometimes they also talk about the pay being by month. But with a part-time job, really, the more you work, the more pay or the more money you will make. And that is what we were saying here with this word pay. Notice it's not a verb like I will pay for my drink before I leave the store. No, this is your pay, the money that you make. If it's a big fancy job in an office, we might call this your salary or your wage or something like that. But your pay is, basically the money that you will make for doing the work at the company or the business. So who is talking about these important things? Sabrina and Carter are talking about their part-time jobs. Two friends, they probably both have jobs or one is thinking of it, and they're kind of discussing the hours and the money or the pay. Let's get to it.
And so we start with Sabrina, and she says, "Can I ask what your pay is at your part-time job?"
No, that's private.
Well, she does understand that. Because she says,
good.
I'll understand if you want to keep that private.
Well, she's very polite.
Yes, because this is actually something that some people don't like to discuss. They don't like to talk about.
How much money do you make?
Yeah, that's kind of an awkward question, and some people like to keep that private. And if something is private, it is personal and you don't want to share it like a secret or something about your salary, which is something that a lot of times we talk about in America. We say you never should ask somebody's salary. But more and more we're deciding that's not exactly a good idea because then the company can pay everybody different things and you'll never know.
Right.
Yes, but the word private just means to keep it to yourself, to not share it with other people. So it's kind of the opposite of saying that something is very public, public information versus private information that you don't want everyone to know.
Yeah, we also might say it's very personal, right? The kind of thing maybe my good friends know, my family, but I don't want everyone to know, right? Your address, how old you are, your phone number. This information can be private. You don't want to share it with the whole world all the time. You know who's not private, though? Tina. She's very public, which is great because that means she's sharing all her knowledge about English grammar and vocab with us. Let's go to Tina right now. But don't ask her how much she makes.
Hello, I'm Tina. 这次的对话是 Sabrina 和 Carter 在讨论他们的兼职工作。Sabrina 问 Carter 打工的薪水是多少，他还说如果你想保留隐私也是可以理解的。有些人是蛮介意的。如果是你，你会说出来你的薪水是多少吗？那我们来看看单字 pay 名词指的就是薪水，它是薪水的总称。Leo is happy with his pay.Leo 对他的薪水很满意。Private 形容词，隐私的，非公开的。This is my private phone number. 这是我的私人电话号码。接着我们回到对话当中。
We are back with our friends Sabrina and Carter talking about their part-time jobs. And they were discussing the hours and the pay. That's the focus for our dialogue, especially that pay. How much money am I making at my job? That is, of course, an important thing to know. And of course, before we had Sabrina asking Carter how much money he made, and that's a bit of a private or personal question. But back in our dialogue, since they are good friends, Carter says, I don't mind telling you. Yes, this could be private. This could be like, I don't want to tell you that. That's kind of secret for me. But in this case, no, I can tell you. I'm happy to tell you. I don't mind telling you how much I make 220 NT dollars per hour. What's your pay like? So there we go. We get a good idea. $220 per hour. Most jobs will work 7-8 hours in one day. So he's making what, around 1,700 NT dollars, something like that, for each day that he goes into work. And that money, of course, is his, since it is his pay from his part-time job. And then he asks the same question to his friend Sabrina. What's your pay like?
Yes, and so Sabrina says, I get paid 250 NT an hour.
She gets more.
Yes, so she gets paid a little bit more, and we don't know if they're at the same job. They're probably not, because they're getting paid differently and they're both part-time workers. In general, part-time workers get paid kind of the same amount at one job. So most likely she's at a different job, but who knows? She also might have just been there longer.
That's true.
And got a little raise or something like that.
She's an assistant manager, or like you said, we've been working there for a year or two longer, she might get paid a little bit more. So this is good news for both of them. They're making some good money. This is money that they can make when they're not studying at their part-time job. Let's go over to Tina before we come back to our dialogue.
Carter 并不介意告诉 Sabrina 他的时薪是新台币220元，他还反问 Sabrina 他的时薪是多少呢？而 Sabrina 说他的时薪是新台币250元。这里有3个文法重点。第一个 somebody doesn't mind 加上 VING， 某人不介意做某事。Mind 在这里指的是介意、在意，后面的动词要用动名词。举例来说，Ian doesn't mind helping his friends with their homework. Ian 不介意帮助他的朋友一起完成作业。 第二个文法 what 加上名词加上 like 什么如何 like 在这里是介系词，意思是像。我们来看看这两个例句。第一个 What's the weather like today? 今天天气如何？下一个例句 What's your mother like? 你的妈妈是怎样的人？最后一个文法 get paid 领薪水，这是一个固定用法。比如说I get paid every Friday. 我每周五领薪水。接着我们回到对话当中。
Okay, so that's the first part of our dialogue. We're already learning a little bit about the different jobs that Sabrina and Carter have and the different pay that they make. We'll be discussing more along with them after this quick break.
Cool. We both make more than the minimum wage of 196 NT dollars per hour.
Yeah, our bosses are pretty generous. Hey, how many hours do you work?
I work 8 hours every weekend. And you?
I have a 6-hour shift every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
That's a lot. You're nearly full-time.
So we are back and we are still with Sabrina and Carter. And before the break, we found out how much money they made per hour. And we found out that Sabrina makes 250 NT dollars and Carter makes 220 NT dollars. So Sabrina makes just a little bit more than he does. But as we are about to find out, they actually both make more than the minimum wage.
Oh, that's good news. So yeah, Carter says cool when he hears that Sabrina makes 250, he makes 220. That's a good amount of money. He's kind of saying, cool, great, good for both of us. And as he points out, we both make more than the minimum wage of 196 NT dollars per hour. So that is the minimum wage. This is basically a standard pay. It's a number that the government gives out. All companies, if they are hiring workers in a regular kind of job, they must pay at least $196 per hour. To pay a worker lower than that is to break the law. And a worker can say, you can't pay me 190. The minimum wage is 196 NT dollars for 1 hour of work. So that is the lowest number that any boss or manager or company can offer or can pay the workers. They can pay you as much as they want, but this is the lowest number. It's the minimum number. And that is what we mean when we say minimum. It's an adjective used to describe generally a number that is the lowest allowed or lowest available or lowest number that is okay. All right, so if we're talking about a price of something, the price can go as high as you can imagine, but the lowest price would be the minimum price. So a high number and a low number, and this is the lowest, as we said, that companies are allowed to pay their workers.
Yes, and Sabrina is very happy about that.
Yeah.
She goes, yeah, our bosses are pretty generous.
True.
Hey, how many hours do you work? So she first is commenting on, I'm glad that our bosses are not only paying the minimum. Each of our bosses are giving us a little bit more than that, so that's good for us.
Yes.
And now we're switching topics and she wants to know how many hours do you work? Because again, it is a part-time job, not a full-time job. So she wants to know, how often do you work?
There you go. How much time do you work? And also, because we know how much they make per hour, we can figure out around how much do you make in a day or a week or a month. We'll find all of that information out after we check in with Tina.
Carter 说，他们都赚得比最低时薪新台币196元高。Sabrina 认为他们的老板蛮大方的。接着又问 Carter， 你工作几个小时？对话里面提到的这个单字 minimum 形容词就是表达最低的。The store has a minimum order of 2 items. 商店有最低订购量为2件商品。接着我们回到对话当中。
All right, we are back. Carter and Sabrina are continuing their conversation. They've talked about how much money they make at their jobs, but now they're going to be talking about how much time they spend on their part-time jobs when they're not studying at school and doing other things. Well, Carter answers first. He says, I work 8 hours every weekend. And you? So he wants to know the same from Sabrina. But yeah, that's pretty normal for a student. 8 hours every weekend. That might be 8 hours on a Saturday or a Sunday. Or maybe if he works in a restaurant, it might be 4 hours on Saturday, 4 hours on Sunday. So a total of 8 hours every weekend times 4. That would be what? 32 hours in a month, and then we know he makes 220, so you can do the math, and that's kind of the amount of money he gets from his job every month, and this, of course, is a part-time job. Now, how does that compare with Sabrina?
Well, it says, Sabrina says, she says, I have a 6-hour shift every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah, so in a week, she's working 6 hours on Monday, then on Wednesday, then on Friday. So total is 18 hours.
18 hours
if
a
we can
week.
do our math super fast.
And she doesn't work on the weekend.
No, so she only works during the week. Maybe that is, again, around her class schedule. Maybe she has classes on Tuesday and Thursday, or maybe even a weekend class. And so this is the time that she can kind of choose to work or work out with her bosses to make sure that she is working at a time that she is free and it's not conflicting with her schedule. And yeah, so she works more than Carter, and that also could be why she gets paid more.
There you go. And of course, for Sabrina, as Carter says, that's a lot. 6 hours 3 times a week, 18 hours a month, 18 hours a week. That is quite a lot. She's working a lot on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. He says you're nearly full-time. As we mentioned, a full-time job will be much closer to 40 hours a week, but she's already almost halfway there, as well as being, we guess, a full-time student studying in college or university.
Yes, and now in this sentence, I think that this is a tiny bit of an exaggeration because he's using this word nearly.
Nearly full-time.
Yeah, and nearly is an adverb that means almost, or you're very close to that thing. Now, if you were like walking a distance of maybe your destination is 5 kilometers away, I probably wouldn't say I'm nearly there until I'm maybe at 4 kilometers or so. So here, she's just under half of maybe what a full-time job is. So he's more kind of using it as an exaggeration of like, wow, you really are busy. You work a lot, especially compared to him for his hours in a week. So is it really nearly full-time? Probably not, but this is what he means. It's just like, wow, that's a lot, because he's using the word nearly that means almost that thing. So yeah, maybe not the best way to use it, but in casual conversation, we do that a lot, where it just is like, wow, that's a lot. You're nearly full-time.
She's much closer to working a full-time job kind of hours than he is.
Yes.
That's for sure. All right, let's go to Tina because we're nearly at the end of our dialogue. So one more chance to visit with Tina.
Carter 说他每个周末工作8小时 ，Sabrina 则是每周1、3、5都有6小时的排班。Carter 认为 Sabrina 几乎算是全职员工了。我们来看看单字 nearly 副词，表示几乎差不多。I nearly missed the bus this morning. 我今早差点错过公车。接着我们回到对话当中。
Okay, guys, we are back. So we've heard a lot of good information from Sabrina and Carter talking about the pay they make from their part-time jobs. We're lucky to hear that private information and also how much time they put in. So you guys can kind of look at those numbers and think about that time and figure out, is that something that you would like to do to maybe make some extra money? We're going to have a lot more about this topic of part-time jobs tomorrow with another great dialogue. So please make some time in your busy schedules to come back and join us for that. Bye. Sabrina and Carter are talking about their part-time jobs.
Can Can I ask what your pay is at your part-time job? I'll understand if you want to keep that private.
I don't mind telling you. I make 220 NT dollars per hour. What's your pay like?
I get paid 250 NT dollars an hour.
Cool. We both make more than the minimum wage of 196 NT dollars per hour.
Yeah, our bosses are pretty generous. Hey, how many hours do you work?
I work 8 hours every weekend. And you?
I have a 6-hour shift every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
That's a lot. You're nearly full-time.
我们来复习一下这一课的重点单字跟文法。单字的部分 ，pay 名词，薪水，薪水的总称。Private 形容词，隐私的，非公开的。Minimum 形容词，最低的。Nearly 副词，几乎，差不多。文法的部分 ，Somebody doesn't mind 加上 VING， 某人不介意做某事。Julia doesn't mind sharing her notes with her classmates. Julia 不介意和同学们分享她的笔记。What's 加名词加上 like， 什么如何 ？What's the job like？ 那份工作如何 ？What's Miss Bell like？ Bell 小姐是怎样的人 ？Get paid 领薪水。Sue gets paid on the 5th of every month. Sue 每个月的5号领薪水。以上就是这课的重点单词跟文法，那我们下一次再见喽，拜拜。
The word metropolitan, or metro for short, means relating to a large city. There is a park in Taichung City called Taichung Metropolitan Park, and today we're going to explore the various attractions this well-known park has to offer. The Seed Sundial Plaza is a famous landmark in Taichung Metropolitan Park. It shows visitors how ancient people were able to tell the time by observing nature. The park is also a perfect place to stargaze. Visitors can learn about the stars and planets by checking out the signs and exhibits in the Star Observation Plaza. One of my favorite things to do on a nice evening is stargazing, which means observing the stars in the night sky. It's a perfect activity to enjoy with your loved ones, so take them to Taichung Metropolitan Park and admire the beauty of a starlit sky together.